We said it could happen. The markets have flipped marginally bullish on the back of the Fed rate decision and a huge announcement for Donald Trump. We're going to talk all about it in this video, so make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Remember, we bring you the daily updates for your crypto portfolio to make sure you are maximizing your potential this bull run. With that being said, let's get into the video. So we've been kind of covering the Fed decision. The most important one, I think, certainly for the start of the year, was what is Jerome Powell going to do? Trump's been in office now for about 3.5 months, and this was going to be a key thing. Remember, Trump said the expectation is the Fed would listen to him when he wanted to reduce interest rates. Now, Jerome Powell has always pushed back, which has then led Trump to kind of push the tariff narrative to bring the potential to reduce rates. Now, spoiler alert, he didn't reduce the rates. He kept it exactly where we expected it to be. There was a 98% chance of this happening, and he did keep it at the benchmark rate of 4.25 to 4.5%. However, there were some very optimistic statements put forward by Jerome Powell and the rest of the Fed committee, certainly giving an indication that we might see a little bit more coming this year. In fact, the numbers stack up with a potential 2 rate cuts in 2025. Now, I actually think we're going to see 3. We've moved forward about a month, with the first one potentially coming in June, followed by a September rate cut, and then potentially December before we go into 2026. Now, these will obviously move as the markets change and as the dynamic of the Trump administration does change, but this is a dovish Fed. We came out and it was all about Jerome Powell not cocking it up, and he absolutely did that. The dot plot chart, which we just sort of looked at, does give a potential of a 50 basis points cut in 2025. Like I said, I think that could be a little bit more. He did talk about tariffs, and surveys of household and businesses took in heightened uncertainty around economic outlook. Again, these tariffs that are coming in are, specifically on goods as opposed to, say, services or anything else that's coming in. They did talk about the balance sheet reduction. Now, this is an interesting point to think about. They've been tasked with a runoff from 25 billion to 5 billion, while the 35 billion cap on agency debt and mortgage-backed securities will remain unchanged. So this is a reduction of balance assets on their program, which I think is very important, and again is aligned to the whole reduction in spending in federal government. They talked about the growth outlook downgraded with inflation estimates and rise. And a lot of these inflation estimations come on the back of Trump tariffs, particularly 2.8 up from a 2.5 in December. January's will be a little bit more interesting as inflation has been a little bit more volatile, but the policy path does remain uncertainty. And I guess this is where Jerome Powell had his little dig back at Donald Trump in the sentiment that tariffs do drive uncertainty in the market. We've heard this from many a CEO, and equally looking at the markets themselves have driven a sentiment of unease. This will over time pass. We know that ultimately it only affects those people that buy the specific products that have the tariff on. If they're in the US, they'll just get by it. And I think it's important. Now, what's also some of the narrative that you may have heard, and certainly you've heard me talking about, the 10-year Treasury. These are some of the key indicators of inflation and money printing. They came down again. This was at 2.59 when we first started tracking it. 4.59, 4.237 now. So this is a good news story. It is on the decline, and this ultimately will paint a solid picture of where the markets are going as inflation comes up. This will make refinancing the debt in the US cheaper, and that's exactly what Trump wants to do. How does that help the crypto markets, I hear you ask? The reality here is that less inflation means more money in people's pockets and potential tax cuts, which means risk on assets become more accessible and viable as investment strategies for many people. So I think what we want to do is see the 10-year treasuries come down, inflation continue to be under control or come down, and therefore more money in people's pockets. These are some of the key things. So given all of this news, and if you think about kind of what came in today, the SEC cancelling its case against the XRP and Ripple team, you've got 10-year treasuries coming down, you've got a dovish Fed and a rate cuts that stay the same. All of this is pretty good news. And then you double down on the fact that President Trump will be addressing the Digital Asset Summit 2025 in New York tomorrow. Now, I believe he's going to be dialed in on a telecoms. But this is, again, big news. The first time he'll speak once again in the Bitcoin kind of community that we saw previously. What's he going to talk about? Are we going to hear 0% tax on US-based companies if they're crypto-related? Maybe the big thing. The last time, obviously, when he spoke at the Digital Bitcoin Conference back before he became president, this was obviously very bullish. Markets kind of liked it. So this will be a very, very good news story. And we'll keep you close on this. And I think we could see something very bullish. Those tax reductions may well come in as well. So today will be an interesting day. We'll keep an eye on what's going on in the markets. We had a very solid day yesterday, but if you take a look at a slightly higher time frame, well, what do you see? We start to see the money value, the net liquidity moving to the upside. On the weekly chart here, Bitcoin's starting to push back up. 2 weeks now of green momentum. This is positive. And hopefully we'll be starting to retest some of this higher range, 92, 93,000. And all those people that think the market's going to dump, well, let's make sure we prove them wrong. So let me know what you think of all of this in the comments down below. The Fed, for once, delivering on what we needed them to. And Trump, well, he's going to be talking crypto tomorrow. Very interesting indeed. Come and join me live, 4 p.m. Eastern. We'll be breaking all of that down on my live stream. But until then, hit that subscribe button and smash a like on this video. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.